At Back to Jerusalem, we've been using Telegram for several years for our messaging system. And in fact, in 2020, that's when we split from using WhatsApp, and we were looking for another messaging app. And we used a lot of different messaging apps out there. I mean, we've used Signal, we've used Threema, we've used different, even social media communication apps. But we settled on using Telegram, not just for our communications, but we've also been using Telegram as a way to update our prayer partners. Now, if you've been watching the news, you will see that Telegram is in the news right now. In fact, if you go to the Back to Jerusalem website, we have several articles about what is taking place so that you as a prayer partner can see how mission news is right now intersecting with world news. And in the world news, we are seeing reports that the founder and CEO of Telegram, a guy by the name of Pavel Durov, he is Russian and he's been arrested in France. The reason this is a big deal for Christian organizations like ours, who made the decision to move over to Telegram from our app that we'd been using like WhatsApp, was because of security. Security is a big deal for missionaries like us that are working in closed countries. Nations like Iran, nations like China. We needed an app that we could use, that we could at least in some small way think that we had a security. And we got relative security, and it's for free with Telegram, right? And I know the story of the founder of Telegram, and this was a big deal for us. If you're not familiar with Telegram, let me just take a very quick moment and tell you why this story is super important specifically for mission organizations and missionaries that are working in closed countries. With the founder of Telegram, his family is from Russia. He was born and raised in Russia. But when he was a young boy, his family moved to the EU, and he had grown up for some time in Italy. And while in Italy, he and his brother, Durov and his brother, they had seen what freedom is like with inside of a Catholic country, inside of the EU, along with Protestants, seeing what it was like to communicate and operate and start businesses and choose your religion. Had all these different freedoms in Italy that they didn't have in Russia, and they loved it. They embraced it, and they stayed there in Italy until the fall of the Soviet Union. After the fall of the Soviet Union, they felt that was a good time to return back to their homeland, and they did. And during a time where there was a need for a secure communication app, Durov and his brother actually created Telegram. And when they created Telegram, they did it with such great security that the Russian government demanded that they stop certain groups, they mute certain groups, and they give information to the government about users and their user base. And they refused to do that. And because they refused to do that, they had to flee from Russia. Now, they also went to America. And in America, with this really tight security system and almost 1 billion users, they got the attention of the FBI. And they began to be visited, and even some of the engineers with Telegram were trying to be recruited by the FBI to create a backdoor. Now, for the FBI, they were just doing their job. They were trying to figure out how to get access to communication to certain actors that they wanted information on. But a backdoor is a backdoor. If you have a backdoor, anybody can use the backdoor. So even if the FBI said, can you create a backdoor just for us, or allow us to get into your system? If one organization can do it or one government can do it, then it's basically open to everybody. And so Telegram refused to do that. And because of that, they ended up moving and starting the company, or running the company, from Dubai. And they've been in the UAE running the Telegram company from there with relative freedom. And this is one of the reasons why we at Back to Jerusalem felt secure using Telegram. I had done the research. I looked into their systems. We have a hackers conference every year. So as we bring the Back to Jerusalem hackers together, I had presented to them the idea of, back to Jerusalem using a messaging app, not just for our own group, but for communicating with prayer partners around the world. People that are not so tech savvy, that just need a very simple, easy, quick, free application to download on their phone and follow Back to Jerusalem. If you're not a follower of the Back to Jerusalem prayer group, you can do that right now by joining us on Telegram. So on Telegram, Back to Jerusalem has a 24/7 prayer channel that you can sign on to, and you get updates there that you don't get anywhere else. And we've been doing that for quite a while on Telegram specifically. One of the reasons why this is a big deal is because this is coming right on the back of Elon Musk, who of course owns former Twitter. Today it's known as X. The same French government within the EU, doing it with the EU capacity, had sent a warning letter to Elon Musk, basically telling him that it is his job and duty to moderate hate speech and offensive things that are being said on his social media platform. This was right before he did an interview with the former president, President Trump. Now, regardless of where you are politically, whether you like Donald Trump or you hate him with every fiber of your being, the fact that a government entity is threatening a social media platform for just doing an interview should be a worry for you. You may not agree. You may strongly disagree with everything that Donald Trump stands for and believes in. That's totally fine. But everybody has a right to hear what he has to say, and he has a right to say, or at least on a platform that says, we want to hear what you have to say, like X. And so a letter was sent to Elon Musk that basically said that if you are associated with anything that is hate speech, anything that disrupts social order, then you will be suffering the full consequences of the law. This is the language of China. We see it all the time. When Chinese Christians are arrested and they're detained for preaching the gospel, printing the Bible, handing out tracts, giving out Christian teaching materials, the thing that they are charged with is not labeled as being a Christian. They're not charged on their official paperwork as this person was teaching Christian teachings, therefore we arrested him. That's not the charge. In China, the language as it's translated is they disrupted social order. They are spreading misinformation. This is the same language that we are seeing for the arrest of the director of and CEO and founder of Telegram. If we look at Telegram right now, you might be listening to this and saying to yourself, well, I'm reading the news. Like, for instance, headline right now on many different mainstream media is that CEO, founder of Telegram, arrested for human trafficking, money laundering, drug dealing. Like, all of these different headlines are saying that he's guilty of a crime, and that's why Paris arrested him. But that is bogus. Those are bogus charges. Basically, what he's being accused of is not moderating his platform. He's not controlling the speech. He's not giving access to his users to governments. He's not stopping people from sharing misinformation. The reason why I'm using air quotes for those of you that are listening to our podcast, I'm using air quotes for misinformation, is that this is the same tactic that China uses. They say that the idea of teaching that a child was born of a virgin mother is misinformation. The idea that a dead man can come back to life again, as Jesus did, is misinformation. The idea that you will one day live in some fairy tale land called heaven is a dissemination of misinformation. And so we're seeing this in China. We see this very strong in China, and we recognize it when it's happening in other nations as well, even if those nations are France. And this is something that a lot of people are not aware of. But think about how Telegram is being charged with the ideas of, or even the crimes of human trafficking, dealing drugs, money laundering, all these different crimes that they say that the CEO Durov is accused of for having Telegram. What they're actually saying is the same idea. This is another way to look at it. It is the same idea if someone drove a Volvo from Mexico to the US carrying drugs. And because the car was used as a vehicle to carry the drugs, you would arrest the director of Volvo. That would seem absurd to us today. If a Ford truck was used to carry weapons from Germany into France, they wouldn't go after the CEO of Ford because that was the vehicle used for carrying the weapon systems. We saw the exact same thing with the founder of Silk Road. This was the first platform to be used to allow for cryptocurrency to be spent in a tangible way. But because it didn't give information on users, people could buy and sell anonymously. The founder was arrested for human trafficking, drug trafficking, put in jail for life without possibility of parole, had never committed a crime, had never done anything in his entire life. For as far as we know, we don't even know if he got a speeding ticket. And yet the very first thing was he started a platform where he didn't give people access to the users, and they were buying and selling. And of course, there's always nefarious activities that take place. Think about this. WhatsApp, who's owned by Meta, which is the founder of Facebook that runs that, Mark Zuckerberg. So WhatsApp was used when the Taliban took over Afghanistan. In fact, as Afghanistan went in, killing and slaughtering people from town to town, they put up their WhatsApp number for people to call and report anybody that might be a spy or someone that assisted America or to help them get into new areas as they grew in their military strength across Afghanistan after the pullout of the United States. Did you hear anybody? Did you hear that Mark Zuckerberg might be arrested when he arrives in France because the Taliban was using his program? No. Do you think nefarious activities takes place on Telegram? Do you think nefarious activities takes place that are illegal on Telegram? Probably so. When you get 1 billion users using your social media platform or your communication platform, there's probably a few things that take place that are a bit sketchy. But yet they have not been detained. What's the difference? The difference is one works with the government to give information on their users, and the other one is not. And that is why we moved from WhatsApp to Telegram. And we wanted to just give an update to the users of Telegram that might be following us and wondering what our next steps are and why they are seeing this. Why is Back to Jerusalem using an app that is founded by somebody that doesn't seem to be safe, that seems to be, at least if you believe the headlines, a criminal? This is something that we wanted for our Back to Jerusalem partners to pray over as we work with our hackers from around the world to find the best way to continue to communicate with each other, our missionaries on the field, as well as supporters and prayer partners like you. I want to thank you so much for joining us for another Back to Jerusalem podcast. Again, I'm Eugene Bach, your host for this time, coming to you live on delay from somewhere within the borders of America. God bless you.